nurtured. And so that's what we're going to focus on tonight, is the root of the root of the root. The rest of these things can be dealt with. You can be aware of them. Awareness brings a lot of knowledge and wisdom to you. This family piece, we have to go at it energetically. And we have to deal with that very, 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 very specifically. And then once that clears, you're free to deal with these other issues at will. You'll have a completely different view of all this stuff when this stuff gets clear here. But all this together, all these negative energy, energetic pieces pushing down upon us, they cause what's called conditional awareness. Conditional awareness. And you can see very clearly if you're living in a world where all this is going on, and you've got some family of origin problems as well, the conditional awareness kicks in. Well, what is conditional awareness? It's where we live our lives in guilt over the past and anxiety over the future, and never get to experience the present. The present. The present. There's a book called The Present. And I would invite you to pick up a copy if you ever see it or get a chance to. And it's a quick read. I read it one time on a flight from Columbus to Atlanta. I read the whole thing, and it changed my life. And they call the present a present right here, right now. They call it the present because it is a present, like a birthday present. And being able to live in a present moment is a magical and mystical experience. Being right here, right now in this moment, not worried about the future, which is a dream for all intents and purposes, not worried about the past, which is a memory and what happened to us back then, but being so clean and clear that you live in the present moment. And from there, you get to create a powerful existence for yourself. But being in the present moment is the key to life. If you can't sit there and have a conversation with somebody face to face, eye to eye, drinking a cup of coffee or a bourbon or a beer or whatever beverage of your choice, if you can't sit there and listen, take that in, that's a disservice to the person you're with. It's a disservice to you, because right here, right now, all of us, this is life. This is our life. This is the present moment. How much are you in it? Feel into your body right now and just feel, how much are you present? Or are you sitting there waiting to ask a question? Or are you sitting there anticipating what I'm saying next? Or are you reading what's on the board and jumping ahead? That's not being in the present moment. Being in the present moment is listening to what I have to say right here, right now. So be very, very aware of conditional awareness. When you live your life in a state of conditional awareness, it can become a shitstorm very fast, and you don't even know where it came from. And again, conditional awareness is when we live our lives in guilt over the past and anxiety over the future and never get to experience the present. The present. Why are we in that state? These all contribute to it. These all add to it. These all drive it to some degree. But the original reason that you're not able to be in the present moment is things like shock, panic, and trauma that occurred in your life when you were a child. So, and I really want you to grasp this concept. A lot of times when I am dealing with clients who are in a severe state of depression or anxiety or something like that, we go back and we do trauma work. We do trauma clearings. And, if I were to ask them, what happened? Why are you like this? What is this going on? What's going on here? They could probably come up with a reason. They could probably make something up, because our brain, the human part of us, our brain doesn't like an open-ended question. So that's why, like when I used to staff the New Warrior Training Adventures as a facilitator, I was always instructed, never ask the question, why? Because when you ask somebody why they're the way they are, why they're living life the way they do, why they're experiencing what they're experiencing, they will come up with a reason. The human brain does not like an open-ended question. And a why is an open-ended question. And this brain will find something. Now, here's the catch. I guarantee you it's not that. I guarantee you it's not that. It has nothing to do with whatever they come up with. Because for most of us, we're so I don't want to say old, but we have aged so well, so fast, that our memories of whatever it was is long since gone. The actual memory of whatever event it was, whatever our mother said to us, whatever our father did to us, whatever the teacher said to us in school or whatever, that's gone. And you might still have some pleasant memories about some things, but whatever the shock, the panic, and the trauma is, that memory's gone. Okay. So, but here's the catch. It's stored at the cellular level of the body. So that's the key. That's why why I do energy work to get at stored trauma in somebody's field, is to get at that memory that they could not recall. If you held a knife to their throat and said, you got to tell me what it is, they still would never be able to recall it. But if you ask them why, they'll make up something. So how do you get at it? Energy work. Okay. So that's a long way to say that trauma comes back as a reaction, not a memory. Trauma comes back as a reaction, not a memory. What does that mean? Well, when somebody says something to you, and this is this has happened between Beth and I more times than I'd like to admit to. And it's happening, it happens less and less and less and less and less and less over the years. But she'll say something to me and I'll take it the wrong way, or I'll hear it the wrong way. And she had no intention that would land the way it landed. And I would get pissed off and upset. Well, what that is a reaction, not a memory. Okay. So it's like whatever she said was similar in kind to something I'm storing in my own body, some kind of trauma that I went through as a child, usually ages 0 to 7. A lot of times it can be even further than that, depending on how tumultuous your childhood and your young adulthood and your teenage years and even your young adulthood life was. But I say usually. So it's a reaction. So she says something to me and I blow up. And then I can always tell I crossed that line from the look I get. The eyebrow goes up, the threat of, I will beat your ass while you sleep. I can hear that in her mind. Hasn't happened yet, but I also calmed down over the years as I cleared my own field. So hopefully she's given up that idea. Okay. So trauma comes back as a reaction, not a memory. So that's why you might go off the deep end at something simple. And it's really simple. It can be really simple and somebody didn't mean to offend you, but you get pissed off about it. And that's because of the trauma that's in the field that hasn't been gotten at. Okay. Now, some of the key signs that you're in this condition is, one, you severely struggle to recognize your own self-worth. You severely struggle to recognize your own self-worth. That's very, very important for you to understand who you are, why you are here, and that you are valuable and necessary and needed on this planet. And when you have trouble with your own self-worth, that's typically trauma that is stored in the body that comes back as a reaction. Another thing that can go on, you rather suffer in silence than advocate for your own needs and wants. How many times do you keep your mouth shut? Well, I'll just go along. I'll go along to get along. I'll show up at Christmas. I'll show up at Thanksgiving. and I'll just keep my mouth shut, and I'll find a reason to leave early. Okay. I will never forget, and my personal history is my father's side of the family was the tumultuous side. And I will never forget the Thanksgiving, the first Thanksgiving. I was 38 or maybe 39, something like that. And I remember sitting at the table at my grandparents' house, and everybody was sitting around the table. And I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I had done so much of my own personal growth work and my self-awareness work and so forth that I could actually be in the present moment at that Thanksgiving dinner, to the point where it was so vivid. It's still so vivid in my mind, what everybody was wearing, what everybody was eating, what they were talking about, that kind of stuff. That's the present moment. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, this is awesome. We are having a good time. And we probably had been having a good time for many years before that. It's just that I couldn't have a good time because of all the trauma that was stuck in my physical body. But that particular Thanksgiving was very special to me, very special to me. And so that's the way we need to be. That's being in the present moment. So you rather suffer in silence than advocate for your own needs and wants. You need to speak up. When you want something, you need to say so. You need to be like Nico. You need to be a honey badger to some degree. It doesn't hurt to speak up for your own needs and wants. It's very important in this world. You need to take a stand. Sometimes that stand is no. Just saying no, I will not. And I find myself doing that very easily now. So advocate for your own needs and wants. The other example of trauma coming back as a reaction is you are highly reactive and struggle to respond calmly. So somebody might give you a bad piece of advice, bad information, something you don't want to hear. You might be one of those people that throw things at your television. That is a prime example of you are highly reactive and struggle to respond calmly. So the first reaction should be no reaction to whatever they say, whatever they do, what have you. You should be able to just go, that's interesting. Why do you think that? Or that's interesting. Why'd you come to that conclusion? That's the way it should be. But if you're not taking a moment, if you're being reactive rather than responding, you've got trauma locked in that body. And then the next one is you struggle to differentiate your feelings from other people's feelings. And I see this a lot of time in a lot of families where one person feels a certain way and that just cycles, it just vibrates, and the other person begins to feel the same way. And Thanksgiving or Christmas just blow up and get blown out of proportion, and nobody has a good time or anything like that. It's just everybody's feelings is mixed in this pool, and you're all so close to each other that you just begin to just jack each other up from a vibrational perspective, emotionally and mentally, and for sure mentally. The next one is you feel powerless in your life, like you're a passenger, not the driver. You feel powerless in your life. You feel like a passenger rather than the driver. And that's never a good thing. You need to feel like you have control, and you do. You have dominion over much more than you're giving yourself credit for. You have control over much more than you're giving yourself permission to have control over. And you get to say no. Again, be a Nico, be a honey badger. This little kid, when he came in, that picture was at my mother's house. We all got together this past Saturday to celebrate my wife's new husband's 97th birthday. For those of you who didn't catch that, my mother got married last year, and she married an older man, and he just turned 97. Now he's in good health. He's in great shape. I mean, he's a wonderful person. My mother did it's a good pick, good mix. They get along great. They help each other. That's exactly what she needed in her life. But when the kids pulled up out front, I ran outside, hugged my son, hugged my daughter-in-law, hugged Lucas. And then Nico tried to get past me because he wanted to get in there with his big brother. And I said, nope, you don't get to pass me without giving Grandpa a hug. And I picked him up, and brother, you would have thought the local fire station siren had gone off. It was piercing. And I just kept saying, nope, you have to give your grandfather a hug. And I was relentless. You can honey badger everybody else, but you ain't honey badgering Grandpa. And I got my hug, I got my kiss, I set him down, I smacked his little ass and sent him on his way. And I said, get ready the next time you come by, I'm going to be here waiting on you. So be like Nico and tone it down a little bit and love those around you. All right. The next one is, it's easy to develop fears. Fear of others, fear of all this, fear of the world, fear of chaos, fear of war. You know, I know a lot of people, I get a lot of new clients in who just live in a constant state of fear and worry. I have a whole protocol for what I call the worry syndrome. But it's easy to develop fears because of this trauma that's stuck in the body, in the field. And in this world, that's dangerous because you can walk around being afraid of everything, when in fact, you probably have very little to fear, if anything at all. So we lose clarity around that. And if you walk around in a constant state of fear, that feeds this cycle that causes more trauma, that causes more energy to be stored, that causes more energy that's sitting there than to be reacted or reacted to. So be very careful about this condition and the developing state of fears, unfounded fears. And then intimacy and vulnerability makes you uncomfortable. Intimacy and vulnerability makes you uncomfortable. Revealing something about yourself, being open and honest with another human being. Pay attention. If that makes you uncomfortable, there's a reason it makes you uncomfortable. Now, it may be because that person sitting across from you is a serial killer. Fair enough. You need to modify your dating practices, okay? Or you need to use some kind of dating app that has a way of sorting that out. I don't know what those look like anymore. But there may be a reason, but more than likely, the reason intimacy and vulnerability make you uncomfortable is because you have this reaction coming up as a memory. And then what I see very common in this world, especially the United States, is you gather achievements in hopes of being loved. You go get not one degree, you get multiple degrees. You get double master degrees. You get bigger cars. You buy lots of toys. And so you gather achievements in the hopes of being loved. Look at me, look at me, look at me. Right? So instead of being vulnerable and having intimacy and having real interaction with other people and the people closest to you, they don't even get to know you. They get to know you have a fancy car, you have a fancy house, you have the latest and greatest, iPad or whatever, but they don't get to see the real you. And that's from trauma coming back as a reaction, not a memory.